Thank you for listening to the Matt's Movie Reviews podcast, available on iTunes, Spotify, Podbean, and Stitcher. Also, please follow Matt's Movie Reviews on Facebook, YouTube, Parler, and Instagram. And of course, be sure to visit www.mattsmoviereviews.net for the latest reviews, top 10 lists, and more. Now, on to the show.
Footage has emerged of the large fireball that lit up the sky at 3:30 today in the Waikato region.
Look at this. Johnny, can you see that?
They're out there.
Who's out there?
Aliens.
I think I saw something. Sometimes I wonder if he's crazy like his auntie.
I seen an eyeball in the toilet. It was swimming around in the toilet. It swam up, looked at me, and then swam away again.
What, did it pop up in the toilet and say hi?
Hello and welcome to the Matt's Movie Reviews podcast. I am your host, Matthew Perkovich, and this is episode number 294. Out now on demand everywhere and also on DVD and Blu-ray in North America is Alien Addiction. It's a New Zealand set and filmed sci-fi comedy that stars social media star Jimmy Jackson as a stoner who befriends a pair of aliens after they crash land on his auntie's farm. A film 4 years in the making and featuring stunning locations throughout New Zealand's North Island, Alien Addiction is also sure to become a stoner cult classic in its own right. Joining me now to talk about Alien Addiction is the film's director, writer, and so much more, SHAE Sterling. SHAE, thank you very much for your time today.
Oh, thank you, Matt. Yeah, I've been looking forward to it.
So I just want to get time periods correct. 4 years in the making. Whenabouts did you actually start production on this?
We filmed the first shot in April 2015. So it's quite a while ago. And then obviously before that, I was sort of writing the film and trying to get some funding together. From there, it took a while because I didn't really have enough money to make the movie. So I'd basically film some of it, then go back to work, do some music videos, get some money, come back, and then shoot a little bit more. And that went on for about 3 years until I finally got it in the can. And then it took me I did a cinema release in New Zealand, but then it took me about another year and a half to get it online and sort of sell it to different territories and figure all that game out as well. So it's a huge, long-winded process, but, it's finally out and it's, all the relief is there now. So
I'm sure it is, because I've talked to filmmakers before. They've talked about the process of making the film and then finally getting out there. It's kind of like almost like letting go of like a child or something, like letting it go off to college or high school or what have you. Is that the same type of feeling with this movie? You're ready to let it go and see what it does without you kind of like tinkering away at it?
Oh, that's definitely a pretty close analogy because once it's released, there's nothing more you can do. And obviously, you can promote it if you're self-promoting it, but it's basically your gift to the sort of people and they'll decide what they want to do with it, if they're going to enjoy it or, become a fan and they'll find their own special connection with it. You're out of the equation now. So, yeah, that's very true.
Interestingly, although the film's a sci-fi comedy, I actually read that the first kind of drafts of the movie was kind of like had a more of a darker tone to it. Is that correct?
Yeah. The initial sort of sparking idea was these kind of aliens and they're kind of up to no good, and they're doing kind of criminal activity. But I think I twisted it. I think I needed something a little bit more special, and then I thought, what if they came to get what we disregard the most? Like what we think what we disregard, we don't think much of, is the most valuable thing to them. And then I sort of used that to get a premise. And then I stumbled across Jimmy and I thought, this guy's great talent. And he's just, people were drawn to him. And then I sort of thought about, what if he sort of befriended the aliens a bit, and then it sort of turned into a comedy. I wrote the movie around knowing that I had Jimmy.
And is it also true that the movie The Gods Must Be Crazy was a kind of like an influence on it as well? And I can actually see that because that movie is all about this African tribe who find this just discarded, I think it was a Coke bottle, right? A glass Coke bottle.
Right.
So this thing that someone threw away to them is like almost like a sign of divinity in a sort of way. And that was something that really sparked the kind of creative comedic process as well as the casting of Jimmy.
Yes. I mean, like, when I sort of design a movie or a concept, I don't initially think of someone else's idea.
Yeah.
And it just occurred to me that I'd seen movies like that when I was young, and I think they must have inspired the way I kind of like to write films. And Gods Must Be Crazy just was an absurd idea that sparked this whole circumstantial sort of scenario and adventure. And there must be something about that I like, because I realize that my movie has a kind of a moment in that in the film when you figure out what the aliens are after.
Yep.
Yeah. So yeah, there must be some influence there.
When it comes to Jimmy Jackson casting him in the movie, when it comes to the kind of like how he's kind of star ascended as well, I think he pretty much started around 2014 or so as a real kind of like presence on social media. Was that how you kind of found him as well, or did you know of him even beforehand? Was he someone that's kind of like had kind of like any type of underground cred even before having that mainstream success?
He had done a few. I think it was on Vine where he first started,
right?
And I came and saw him maybe 6 months sort of after that, and he just popped up on my timeline on Facebook he was doing this funny prank. He'd walk down the road and he would ask someone for directions to the KFC. And then they would tell him, oh, it's down the road. And then we have a greeting in New Zealand. The Māori greeting is called a hongi, and you touch nose with them. And he would pick these kind of, businessmen in their suits and stuff, and he'd be like, oh, is it KFC, bro? The guy's like, oh, I think it's down the road. He goes, oh, thanks, hongi. And he'd go in for a hongi, and then the guy was sort of like, oh, what's happening? And at that moment, I was going, oh, this guy's brilliant, he's got no fear. And he's very quick-witted. And it was so relatable. So, yeah, that's when I started talking to him. And he just, since then, he's such a hard worker. Like, his audience has grown so big online. I think when I first talked to him, he probably only had 20,000 subscribers on YouTube, and now he's just coming up on 1 million.
Yeah.
So yeah, he's really worked himself up, and people think, oh, it's just some social influencer. No, he's writing scripts every day for skits and filming them, and just he's constantly at work, really. So yeah. The
other stars alongside Jimmy are the two alien creatures, and I just want to talk about really the design of the creatures, specifically their face, because everyone's talking about it. It looks like a butt. and so I guess my question is, intentional? Is that as written in the script, or is that something where it's like you get some concepts coming along and you're like, you know what, that right there, that's perfect for what we're looking for?
Yeah, well, basically, I got a guy to draw a bunch of pictures, and I sort of told him some ideas. I did sort of say maybe a butt head one, or something kind of a bit ugly or whatever. And he sent back a whole bunch of pictures, and some of them were the kind of original kind of aliens that you'd expect to see. And then he had this one, and it just rung it. It had something about it that was so wrong, but yet so right.
Yeah.
And just the funny side of me was like, SHAE, go what makes you laugh. And the butt face guys, like, do that. And some people were like, what are you doing? I don't know about that. And I was just like, no, I'm just going to go with that. I'm going to trust my gut here. And there was a great lady called Jennifer who worked on making the mask from the drawing.
Mm.
And I think I made a little mold to show to her myself. It wasn't very good, but she made it to a proper life-size thing. But I think she had an assistant working with her, just an intern, who was like, oh, I don't want to work on these things. They're ugly. and quit. And I bet she's probably regret that now. But Jennifer, anyway, she did a great job, designing the heads. And then, Jude, I had ideas that they would hover around and all sorts of stuff, but we don't have much budget.
Yeah.
I had very little budget. I could only just afford to get the suits made. And you had to figure out a way for them to walk. And my partner, Melanie, was helping me figure out how do they walk. And we came up with this kind of little shuffle, and she was pregnant at the time as well. So she had the belly. And then I went casting, and she was just too good. I had to get my partner to play the alien with our son in her belly. So about a third of the movie is she's really pregnant. And then we got a sort of pillow for the other, Stephen, who played the other alien. And then we had the baby, because it's over 3 years of filming. Yeah. We had the baby. And then we put another sort of pillow thing in for her. And people got, I didn't want it. I wanted people to feel like they're watching an independent movie made on a low budget, but had good little ideas, because it's the idea that counts. We've seen all the special effects, all those Marvel movies, and some of it's just too much,
Yeah.
And it's taken away just from some good dialogue and some good little dramas and scenarios and stuff. So that's what I focused on. Yeah.
Something else that really standing out to me was the locations, and a lot of people, similar to like here in Australia, New Zealand have just like a plethora of just places you can film, and places are different, and it's really caught the national and international audiences as well, just all the different stuff there. You filmed more in more in the North Islands of New Zealand, particularly in, let me know if I get the pronunciation correct, Waikato. Is that the place where you guys particularly shot? Is that a place? Is that where you're from? Is that where Jimmy's from? Is that something you shot in before during your film clip kind of days? How did you come across to find that place?
Yeah, so that's sort of south of Auckland. So if you continue down past Auckland, past Hamilton, you'll get to Waikato kind of area. And I needed somewhere that it was relatively close to Auckland, that it was achievable to get there without being a 6 or 7 hour drive, because it's more like a 3 hour drive.
Yeah.
So that was a budget thing as well. I had to sort of find it somewhere that was inspiring, that we could get to easily. And the main highway through the country drives right through there, and you can see, a glimpse of it, a little some mountain, but it's mainly forestry.
Yep.
And some wonderful people there, just local towns and things. And basically, I just drove around there for a few weeks, and I kept coming back and just designing the movie, and thinking about Jimmy and these aliens and what goes on in this little. It's actually quite a big area. And that's part of some of the best times, me just sitting with a location and an idea. That's some of the most fun times for me. So.
New Zealand comedy has really taken a hold pretty much everywhere. Australia, it's always been very popular here because we're your neighbours and such. This movie, though, you were very fortunate in a way that before this whole kind of COVID thing kind of happened, you got a chance to go to some film festivals in the States particularly. You had the Other Worlds Film Festival in Austin, Texas. There was the Boston Sci-Fi Film Festival as well. Once your movie in particular, as opposed to, say, something like what the later date Taika Waititi stuff or Flight of Conchords will do, in particular has a lot of kind of like New Zealand-based kind of slang and such that might not translate as well in other territories. How did you find that? In the States? I mean, by the time that you get there, has there been enough kind of groundwork from other filmmakers and other creators from your country to kind of ease that transition across, especially when it comes to slang and jargon that some of the characters in the movie have? Yeah,
I wasn't sure either. So when I first played it in Austin at Other Worlds, we're in Texas, and I was thinking, are they going to get this? And I was blown away. We had big laughs all on the key moments. In fact, bigger than some of the laughs I had in some other places, even in New Zealand. Like they got it. And yeah, sure, they might have misinterpreted a few words here and there.
Yep.
But what do they say? 90% of communication is body language.
Right, yeah.
So, and Jimmy's, he works well with his face, but they got it all, they loved it. And I think all that slang and stuff is just all the flavor of something a bit different, Sure, Americans, they do like their own stuff a bit. And I think Taika and Flight of the Conchords, those guys have paved the way, which is really cool. My style is, in that particular movie, Alien Addiction, is even a bit further slang. It's sort of very backyard, whereas their stuff is a bit more sort of dry with the sarcasm, which is we feel like it's been a kind of Kiwi thing. And it's around in New Zealand everywhere. Those guys just happen to use it, and yeah, it's really quite cool that it gets out there and people do get it,
What is the situation like down there in New Zealand, particularly where you are right now, in regards to filmmakers being able to do their stuff during these kind of COVID times? Because I know your country is similar to a lot of the states here in Australia. We got a good handle on stuff. The outbreaks have been very minimal. They've been brutal in some cases, but minimal. I've talked to numerous independent filmmakers here in Australia. People in New South Wales and Queensland, they're resuming their work, but Melbourne, in Victoria, for example, no go kind of stuff. They had to really kind of look at their projects, put stuff on hold, etc. What about for yourself and other filmmakers in New Zealand? Are you guys able to? Is there an industry that's still rolling down there, considering that you guys have such a good handle on things, or are things kind of like taking like a bit of a backseat now?
Yeah, it's had an impact. I do have friends that are working on those big films and series like Lord of the Rings series, and this Avatar 2 and Avatar 3 they're working on. And I think Avatar 2 just got postponed a year.
Yeah.
Or sort of 8 months or something. But they've figured out how to film, and we were even letting a few specialist people through the border somehow during a lockdown for filming. But as for me, it's an independent filmmaker. Like I'm still doing music videos to pay the bills. When Alien Addiction money comes in through, that will be great. But until then, I'm still shooting music videos, and we can still shoot under sort of strict rules. Not too many people and social distancing and etc. Which I see a lot of other countries doing. Like I still see shoots and all sorts of things going on in America. So that's good. We'll figure out pretty quickly how to do it. It's just all the events, really.
Yeah.
There's even events associated around films, like film festivals. They're the ones that are really sort of, and the cinemas. Like, I really hope those cinemas survive. It's not looking easy for them because, people during COVID, people have gotten much more savvy with their streaming and watching at home, I guess.
Well, fortunately for yourself, Alien Addiction is available on demand in a lot of territories, including here in Australia. You can get it on YouTube. I'm pretty sure you can get it on iTunes as well. The movie for my North American audience is also available DVD and Blu-ray, and it's also available in DVD next week in Australia. I saw that JB Hi-Fi have got it posted already for pre-order. So I really recommend people check this film out. Low-budget sci-fi comedy. If you want a good laugh, if you like the type of humor that we're talking about right now, give it a go. Watch it. If you're a big fan of Jimmy Jackson, do that as well as his big screen breakthrough. And also, SHAE Sterling, look, I thank you very much for your time today. Congratulations on the movie. Long time coming, but it's great that it's out there. And we're awesome to talk to you again in the future when things do get back to normal. You're able to do some more feature films. I've read that you've got some scripts already in mind to do. So when that's all ready to go, man, give me another year. I'd love to talk to you again.
Oh, yeah, that'd be awesome, Matt. Yeah, I've got heaps of plans. Also forgot to mention we are currently #1 in Australia on YouTube Movies and Google Play.
Excellent.
Isn't that awesome?
That is awesome to hear because people need a good laugh these days, and you can definitely find some of those in the movie. So congratulations to SHAE, and thank you very much again for your time today.
Thank you so much, Matt.